Everyone, what's going on? If you've been following my YouTube channel and following my blog, I've made a whole bunch of videos about the band Slipknot and why they were important to the date of August 10th and them playing for the first time at the Iowa State Fair. They've been something that I've been following for a long time in regards to the way that our media is scripted and our told history and other things. And a big deal with August 10th was that at nighttime, it began the Jewish Remembrance Day of the destruction of the two temples that is called Tisha B'Av. And we've talked a whole lot about this year being important to the dates of August 10th and August 11th in regards to the construction of the third temple and the prophecy of the red heifer, among other things. I'm not going to re-explain it. You can check out some links in the description. But nothing major happened at the Iowa State Fair when Slipknot played on August 10th, the night that Tisha B'Av begins at night, and it goes until August 11th. But if you look up Slipknot, the very next day, Slipknot just so happened to play a show on August 11th in the town of Tinley Park, Illinois. And apparently, a guy named Richard Valadez had went to this concert, and he ended up dying at this concert on August 11th at Tinley Park. But when you look up this guy, notice this guy is from the town called Zion. Zion man dies after attending Heavy Metal Fest in Tinley Park. So this guy is from Zion. A guy from Zion dies on August 11th. Zion is Israel. Zion is not Israel, but it is Jerusalem. Let's look up Zion here. You know, it's the place for Jerusalem, right? Zion, Israel, Jerusalem, the third temple, and now some guy at the Slipknot concert dies on August 11th, and he's from the town called Zion, of all places. And to even make matters even more interesting, the place that this concert was at was called Hollywood Casino Amphitheater. And if you write that out in gematria, it equals 134, just like Tisha B'Av, just like 9th of Av, which is what Tisha B'Av is actually called. If you write it in English words, right? 9th of Av, it's the 9th day of the 11th month. Look at this in Jewish gematria here. Let me pull it up really quick. Jewish gematria. If you write out Tisha B'Av, it just so happens to equal 911. And it's in remembrance of the two temples that were destroyed on the 11th, in the, the 9th day of the 11th month on the Jewish calendar, right? 9/11. Think about the destruction of the two towers that happened on 9/11 in 2001. So anyway, what else is interesting about this is if you look up this guy's name, Richard Valadez. I've been talking about how these Francis Bacon ciphers are important, how Iowa and Slipknot are important to France, and much, much more. But I noticed that his name equals 262. And I've talked a lot about the date of August or September 19th as well, because this year it'll be 9/19/19. And August 10th, the day that Slipknot played this concert, just so happens to be 1 month and 9 days before this date of 9/19/19. And it's also Pope Francis's 6th year, 6th month, and 6th day of being the Pope, and a number of other things. It's this really important number to Queen Elizabeth. So it's this important date. And 9/19 is the 262nd day of the year. So this guy who dies at the Slipknot concert, his name equals 262, and he's from Zion, and Zion just so happens to equal 919. What are the odds of that, right? He even he lived on Galilee Avenue. Think about, Galilee. And that's where Jesus supposedly performed a bunch of miracles, walking on water and so on, right? If you write out Galilee in Jewish gematria, it equals 67. And that's important because the 19th prime number is 67. And think about all these nines, 19s. 91919, 1 month and 9 days after Slipknot plays at the Iowa State Fair. It's just so ridiculous, And I looked up Tinley Park because this concert was at Tinley Park, so I was like, I wonder what's interesting about Tinley Park. And Wikipedia has this pretty small list of notable people, and one of them just happens to be Jeremiah Wright, who was the former minister of Barack Obama. And back in March, I made this blog post about Jeremiah Wright because I had a bunch of synchronicity with Jeremiah. I went to Zachary K. Hubbard's blog, and he was documenting about Jeremiah 19 in regards to, the destruction of Israel or of Jerusalem. And it was really odd that he had posted about this because just the night before I documented about this movie because of Marilyn Manson. And the title actually comes from Jeremiah 17. And I had just watched that movie called Us that had came out. And in the very beginning, it has Jeremiah 11:11. And I also documented something to do with Sandy Hook. They gave us all these people who, they kept killing themselves because they survived Sandy Hook and whatnot. And there was a story of the dad killing himself. His name was Jeremy, which was like Jeremiah. And I talked about how I had recently talked about my Facebook being important. And on my Facebook from years ago, I had like 3 memes ever. And one of them was about Robin Williams, who was born on August 11th. And another one was about Jeremiah Wright. And Jeremiah Wright just so happened to give this controversial speech just days after 9/11, and it was called The Day of Jerusalem's Fall. And think about this in regards to, the construction of the Third Temple, the destruction of Jerusalem, Tisha B'Av, which is the remembrance of the destruction of the 2 temples. What are the odds that Jeremiah Wright would be from there? And when you look up Jeremiah Wright, his full name is Jeremiah Alvesta Wright Jr. And of course, that equals 262 in gematria. And he was the former minister of Barack Obama. Barack Hussein Obama II equals 8/11, like August 11th, And think about his name, too, in regards to 9/11 and so on. Barack Hussein Obama, right? Saddam Hussein. We go to war after Osama bin Laden supposedly bombs the 2 tower, plane flies into the 2 towers. And then we actually go to war with Iraq, which makes no sense, with Saddam Hussein. Then we get a president named Barack Hussein Obama. I mean, it's just such a stupid joke, How do people not? It's just so crazy that people can't see that these presidents and whatnot have no meaning whatsoever, and politics don't matter, nothing. Politics have nothing to do with what is going on in the world. It's all just a form to keep you enslaved and make you think that you have some type of say in this world, but you absolutely have no say whatsoever. Also, what's interesting about Jeremiah Wright is birthday. He was born in Philadelphia. And remember, Philadelphia was super important to Pope Francis's visit to the United States in 2015. And, he left from Philadelphia. Then we got the 4th blood moon of the Tetrad later that night. And he had visited Obama at the White House. And he arrived in America on 9/22. And Philadelphia also has the building called the Comcast Center there that has the black cube on the top that is a representation of the New Jerusalem, which the New Jerusalem is where the 3rd temple will be built and so on, right? The black cube. So interesting, this guy's from Philadelphia, or born there. And then he's born on September 22nd, which in regards to Slipknot being important to France, like I've documented about, and August 10th being really important to France, the fall of the French monarchy, and so on, right? The fall of the French monarchy was on August 10th. This year's the 227th anniversary. French monarchy equals 227. French Revolution equals 227. Napoleon born on the 227th day. That's the day that it was the anniversary of his anniversary was the day that Donald Trump said he was Batman at the Iowa State Fair. That was really important to why Slipknot was playing for the first time at the Iowa State Fair. But 922 is this year will be the 227th anniversary of the establishment of the French Republic. And also Des Moines, Iowa, where Slipknot is from, was incorporated on 922. So it's definitely interesting. It's also the day that leaves 100 days in the year, and Slipknot equals 100. So, I mean, something very interesting. I've been following that date a whole lot. We'll see what happens. Doesn't mean that anything big is going to happen in regards to destruction, even so, still, but these dates are absolutely symbolic. Well, I mean, what are the odds a guy from Zion dies on Tisha B'Av at the Slipknot concert after I'm talking about how it's important that Slipknot is playing for the first time ever at the Iowa State Fair at the beginning of Tisha B'Av, and then his name even has these connections to that other date I was talking about with August 10th. So, absolutely important. You know what's funnier too? I've been gone for 3 days and I haven't had time to really document a whole lot of stuff, but in my last video I talked about how I thought there was something to do with Denmark because this guy told me I looked like, at work, this guy told me I looked like let me find the post here. Some guy told me I looked like this guy, David Foster Wallace, and it reminded me of this old video that I put out and whatnot, and I talked about the Denmark shooting in 2015, and, I just went on to mention some stuff. This video was even 9:19 in length. I talked about how my name's Dan, and Denmark is supposedly the mark of Dan, thinking about the tribe of Dan stuff, and Denmark, and then, like, later that day, I believe it was, I mentioned Denmark again, because I was talking about how my cousin had given me the shirt about, it had this word on it, Christiania, or how do you say it? Because he had visited Denmark I know he had a foreign exchange student that lived with him from Denmark, and they come back and visit, and he went over there and visited, and he brought me back this shirt that was from this drug town, or that's what he said, but it's actually just an anarchist community within Copenhagen, Denmark. And so I was just mentioning some stuff with Denmark, because on August 10th, we got that important mosque shooting in Norway, and I've been documenting about how Scandinavia is important with this troll theme and so on. So I document about, Denmark, trying to find where else. Oh, and then I go to CNN and there just happens to be a story about Denmark. What happened to Denmark's hippie paradise? And of course, it's talking about this town that I have a shirt with the name on it of, and it tells you how it's an anarchist community and whatnot. And then on Thursday, the big story in the mainstream media was how Donald Trump wanted to buy Greenland from Denmark. What are the odds of this? Donald Trump wants to buy Greenland from Denmark. Another story about Denmark, just after I document about how Denmark might be important to this narrative with Scandinavia and so on. And even more for synchronicity, I had to go to Stromsburg, Nebraska to DJ. One of my good friends' stepsister got married, and they live in Stromsburg, Nebraska, which is about close to 3 hours away from where I live. And when we got there, I noticed all this stuff with Sweden. I was like, there's like a shop that said something about Sweden and so on. And then he told me every year they do this Swedish festival. So I looked at the town when I got home. And of course, this town is actually known as the Swede capital of Nebraska. So, once again, this crazy synchronicity. I'm talking about Scandinavia being important. And then I randomly go DJ at this town I've never been to in my entire life, know nothing about it, and it's all about Sweden, which is part of Scandinavia. And in the mix of that being gone, we got the death of this guy, Peter Fonda, who interestingly was on the movie 310 to Yuma, the remake. And somebody had just recently even asked me about this, if I had covered it yet. Did you catch 310 to Yuma? And the reason they asked me this is because if you follow what I'm saying, the number 310 is really important to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And last November, I documented how there was something with the number 310 with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. David Arquette was in the media. We also got this 310-mile-long dust storm that was in Australia. And in that post, I even mentioned how it was a dust storm, and it reminded me of the film 310 to Yuma in Arizona and the desert, and possibly there was something to it. And when I went and looked up this film even, there's a character named Charlie Prince, and a lot of what I've talked about has to do with Prince Charles possibly becoming King Charles if Queen Elizabeth dies. And since 2014, I've been saying 9/19 is this important day to Queen Elizabeth, and possibly she might die on that day at some point. So I'm just watching for this date, this upcoming date. Something very symbolic about what is going on with it. And being the year 19, it makes a lot of sense that, something might possibly happen. But started documenting about Peter Fonda being in 310 to Yuma, and I kind of stopped for a second and I went to CNN, and of course this was a headline story: Kiefer Sutherland seriously injured during European tour. And would you believe that Kiefer Sutherland was traveling to Denmark when he got injured on his tour bus and broke his rib? If you have followed anything I have talked about, Kiefer Sutherland played this humongous role in Buffy the Vampire Slayer because it was synced up to Corey Feldman defending Michael Jackson on the same day that Luke Perry died. And of course, Kiefer Sutherland is the lead vampire in the movie The Lost Boys that was important to Corey Feldman and the vampire theme that I was talking about. His dad, also the trainer of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Donald Sutherland. And back in 2017, I talked all about how the Big Bang Theory and Stand By Me were connected to Kiefer Sutherland in the movie Stand By Me. And I said how we were missing Kiefer Sutherland in this narrative that was going on with Corey Feldman and River Phoenix and so on. And then we got the Sutherland Springs church shooting on November 5th, just, a week after I mentioned how there's this theme going on with all the characters from Stand By Me, and then we got a Sutherland Springs church shooting. So Kiefer Sutherland, really important, and now he supposedly breaks his ribs before going to Denmark. So there's something interesting about it. I don't know what the full narrative with it is, but... And part of the joke is that his band, or whatever it is, his record's called Reckless and Me, and then, he was reckless and, fell down the, whatever, at his tour bus and broke his rib. It's just so stupid. Kiefer Sutherland, too. If you look up Kiefer Sutherland, I don't know what the deal is. Kiefer... I have this weird connection with him. My name does equal the same as his. My full name equals the same as Kiefer Sutherland. But, the TV show Touch was this really interesting show. There's something important to him. And with the symbolism that I always get shown, he's been really important to a lot of it. But there's got to be a reason that he's got 5 middle names, too. You know what I mean? I don't know the full meaning of it, but if you do his whole name in gematria, it equals 257. And Buffy the Vampire Slayer also equals 257. My name also has a connection to 257, just Daniel Barrett. And my 10th birthday was 3 months and 10 days after the movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer came out. And 10 is important because God equals 10, Satan equals 10, and they both also equal 55, and the 10th triangular number is 55, right? If you add 1 plus 2 plus 3 all the way up to 10, it equals 55. I was even born on a date numerology of a 5. If you take 1, it's 11/10 of 1982. You take all them up, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 2. It equals, what, 23? And then that reduces down to a 5. So, and in every form of my name, it reduces down to a 5 in either frontwards or reverse. So, thought that was super interesting. There's something to do with the number 5. But Peter Fonda also equals 104, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer the Small Way equals 104. So, they even have this odd connection. And this Kiefer Sutherland story also happened on the 227th day of the year, which was also Napoleon's birthday, and so on. It was also, the day we got that story of the Dale Earnhardt airplane crash. So why they waited to release this story on 8/18 is interesting. But I know that last year I talked a lot about 8/18 being important to Pope Francis because it was 8/18/18, right? And it was 8 months and 1 day after his birthday, his 81st birthday, and the word Pope equals 81 and a bunch of stuff. So I feel like it's just some type of symbolic thing that's showing me 91919 still. Also today, just below that story, we got a story of a guy almost getting struck by lightning with an umbrella. And if you go back to March, right around that same time of the Jeremiah stuff, I had synchronicity with Mary Poppins. And then a few days later, we got a story about a man blowing away from an umbrella like Mary Poppins in the country of Turkey. And Turkey equals 310. And I talked about how it was important to the third season, episode 10 of The Simpsons, that had a title name with the play on Mary Poppins. And now we're getting a story just below this, of an umbrella. Talked about the Umbrella Man and Zach's car crash in 2016, and how there was something important to the pig year this year with August 10th. So it's just interesting. We get a story below Kiefer Sutherland about an umbrella. I talked a lot about the date of August 27th in that post too. And next year on August 27th, it'll be 12/21/12 in Ethiopia on the Ethiopian calendar, which is also the anniversary of Haile Selassie dying in Ethiopia, the lion of the tribe of Judah. And, he was believed to be the reincarnation of Jesus and so on. But that stands out to me because Kiefer Sutherland's birthday is 12/21. Think about it. In Ethiopia next year, it's going to be 12/21/12, like the date on the Mayan calendar that was supposedly so bad. So, and that's also another interesting day, one of them weird ones. 12/21/12, like 1/2/2/1/1/2, right? 9/1/9/1/9. There just seems to be some type of significance with them type of dates. So we'll see what happens on WrestleMania. Was showing us August 27th pretty hard too. So I've been watching for August 27th as well. It's an important day. See what else I want to talk about. I just randomly making a video here because whatever. I don't know. I just wanted to get this information out before I went to bed. My head's been pounding. Haven't slept much in the last 3 days. But oh yeah, Peter Fonda. Peter Fonda went to the University of Nebraska, Omaha too, right? He went to UNO, and it's only interesting for a few reasons because Kiefer Sutherland's in that TV show that's called 24, and in that TV show, they assassinate the first black president when he's not in office. After he's the president, then he gets assassinated. And the University of Nebraska Omaha is where Baxter Arena is, and I've recently documented again about how it was important after Obama gave his final State of the Union speech. He went to Omaha, Nebraska and gave a speech at Baxter Arena. And I just recently went there to the JoJo Siwa concert, and I don't know, there's just something interesting about that. I don't know what it is with Baxter Arena, but JoJo Siwa on 810 had a concert at the Mandalay Bay Hotel, or the Mandalay Bay area, the concert area. So there's, think about the Vegas shooting that happened in connection to, oh, I can't remember what Jewish festival was that year. Was it Yom Kippur or something? Maybe it was the New Year. I can't remember exactly what it was that year, but we had the Las Vegas shooting that was synced up to that. So I don't know, I'm just trying to piece it together. There's something weird about it. I just went to a concert there. I know it's important. There's obvious things too, like Peter Henry Fonda equals 174. Of course, he died 174 days after his birthday. He died age 79 too, which is that number is, Vampire Slayer equals 79. The guy who played Lothos died in connection to 79. Bunch of stuff with Buffy connected to 79 as well, so. He's in this movie, The Passion of Ayn Rand, or however you say her name. And I know a long time ago, I documented about her and the great San Francisco earthquake, like the Bohemian Club and some stuff. I'll have to go back and review that, but there's definitely something going on. So I just wanted to make a short video, just kind of showing some symbolism. I've only been home for, a little while, and a lot of synchronicity going on, and something to do with Denmark for sure, and absolutely Slipknot synced up to this whole narrative. So we'll keep following Slipknot. We'll keep seeing what's going on with it. So done rambling. Have a good one. Peace.